Hey, everybody. Thanks for listening to the Goodness Village podcast. Today, I get the pleasure to sit down with one of our awesome volunteers, Sandy Wiley. Sandy, how are you doing?
I am great.
Yeah,
Happy to be here.
I'm so stoked to sit down with you. So we were chatting a little bit before we hit record, but you have been so involved in this community with Goodness Village, with Crosswinds, with the Tri Valley, just volunteering for a hot minute. That's incredible. Can you kind of let us know or tell us how you ended up at Goodness Village?
Well, it was evolution for sure. I've been volunteering and doing community outreach for about 15 years now. But how I ended up here was I saw these trailers parked in the parking lot. And I looked at them and I'm like, "Oh, I hope that's what I think it is." And so that morning I went up to one of the pastors and I said, "What are those trailers about?" And I said, "Are they for the unhoused?" And they said, "Yes." And, of course, I'm a big crybaby, so I almost started crying. And, that's when I first learned about Goodness Village, and I knew I was going to be a part of it somehow. I had no idea what that was going to look like.
Yeah. Well, it's funny that you bring up the trailers because that was the most uh, incredible and unintentional advertisement we could have ever done, for folks that are listening that have didn't see in around 2020, when we were still building the infrastructure for Goodness Village, all the underground stuff. The tiny houses were showing up. The manufacturers are saying, "Hey, they're ready to go." So we stored them on the front of the Crosswinds property, which shares a fence line with Highway 580. So
Yep.
anybody driving by or trying to get to the city or back or whatever would drive by these rows of tiny houses. So I had a lot of really fun conversations with people that would pull off the freeway and drive onto the property and ask, "Hey, are these for sale? Can I buy one right now?" Like it's wonderful to say it's like, "Thank you, but this is actually for Goodness Village," and I got to share what the vision of that is. So really cool to hear that's a little bit of your story of just driving by and saying, "That's cool. I want to know more about this." And here you are, one of our most involved volunteers today. So I'd love to know, how do you volunteer for Goodness Village?
I cook.
Oh,
So to me, serving food is just love.
mm,
I've always loved to cook. I always hosted all my family, holiday functions, and one by one, as we get older, darn it, our children, grow up and move away, and, I was kinda left, with a family on the East Coast
mm,
and myself on the West Coast, and come Thanksgiving, I'm like, what am I gonna do? Who am I gonna cook for?" And, so I just started cooking and just going to San Francisco and handing out food just
mm,
on my own. And so when the opportunity came up here to cook on Wednesday nights for I call it family dinner
mm,
because it is a family
yeah.
dinner to me. I come and I cook, and I cook just like I do for my family. I try to make super awesome. I won't say I'm a gourmet cook, but I'm pretty good. Everybody loves my food, and
I was gonna say you have a great reputation here because I think, tell me if I'm wrong, but I think you provide dinners here, what, once a month? And
at
your name's on the
least,
calendar, and I
yeah.
get to hear from neighbors and staff of like, "Oh, this week it's Sandy."
Yeah,
Yes.
everyone comes. The best thing that happened, I had no idea what was gonna how this was going to fill my heart.
Mm,
Although, um, you know, serving, the community and the unhoused has been part of my heart since I was a kid.
mm,
But I I drove up and I had this food in the trunk, and it was the second time I had been here. And the first time I made lasagna and they all went crazy. All the residents love my lasagna. So I was coming again. I think I was coming with tri-tip and mashed potatoes that day.
I didn't get that email. I would've showed up for that.
Yeah. And I drove up and there were all the residents
Mhm.
in the picnic area sitting there, and when I drove up, they all stood up and started giving me a standing ovation. I got a standing ovation, and I call them sponsors, so I leverage. I'm a woman, a single woman of very slim means, but I do what I can. So I leverage people. They say, "Oh, we love that you do that. How can we help?" And I said, "Well," and I always tell them, "Well, you can sponsor a dinner." So I said, "And if you would like, I'll cook, I'll do everything. You don't have to do anything, but you can help me serve." So I had a one of my sponsors with me that day, and when she saw, um, that standing ovation, she just burst into tears and she goes, "What are you doing here?" And I said, "Just wait and see."
Mm,
And from her, I can't tell you, she's very involved, she's, very involved in the ranching community in Livermore, old ranching community family, and I cannot tell you how much support I've gotten from the ranching community,
mm.
just because of that standing ovation.
Wow, so your involvement and supporting of Goodness Village has, you said, it fills you up and has created friendships that you've had with neighbors, but also throughout the Tri-Valley just for the sake of feeding our neighbors at Goodness Village,
Mhm,
which is incredible. Besides cooking delicious food,
mhm.
as we all know, have you gotten the chance to get to know our neighbors, have conversations with them? How's that been?
I have. I mean, I when I first got here, I didn't really know the protocol or if there was one, but my heart and my soul says, you know, I wanna get to know these people. I want to sit down and eat with these people. Um, you know, anyone can be unhoused.
Yeah,
It's certainly after 2008, I learned that lesson because I was renting out rooms to my friends who were losing their homes so that I could keep my home. So, you know, there's always been no judgment in 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 my mind
yeah,
for serving, the unhoused, but, I've gotten to know I'd like to say I've gotten to know pretty much almost everybody,
I love
and
that.
I listen to their needs, and, um, I'm a seamstress, which is a
Mm.
lost art, and there's another woman resident here who is a seamstress, and her sewing machine broke, and she was really upset, and lo and behold, I belong to this free cycle website, and there was this sewing machine on there for free, and I go, "Oh, yeah, I could use that," and brought her a sewing machine the next week when I brought the food, and,
Oh my gosh.
that was incredible, and I received flowers, I received from the residents, I received flowers, I received homemade soap, I've received just an incredible amount of, love and have made so many, I mean, great friends. These
I
people are my
That
friends.
warms my heart so much because from my perspective, I have wonderful relationships with all of our neighbors and, working with the staff and outreach, but I don't get to hear these stories very often where
Mhm.
volunteers and other folks in the community come in and volunteer and build these friendships, and it's kind of what the entire village is all about. It's
Mhm.
really encouraging to hear your story and your involvement and what we're doing and how it's working. It's so cool to just, I mean, you can tell me more, but it seems like you're just building relationships with your neighbors. It's not about, oh, we're in this tiny house, formerly unhoused neighbors. It's like, oh, this is just so and so. There's We walked by Daryl coming over here and we hung out for a little bit. And he's
Ex
just a neighbor here.
exactly. Yeah, I mean, the face of the unhoused today is a lot different than it used to be, and I think
Yeah.
that that's a really good lesson for people to learn. Um, I educate a lot of
Mm.
people about that in particular. You hear these statements, well, that's their lifestyle, they wanna live that way. No, no, no one wants to be unhoused. No one deserves to be unhoused, like, you have compassion. To me, there's an immediate need, and that's food. I mean, for me, the immediate need is food or shoes, um, and then there's a global need, and, I'd love to get involved more in the global need, which I believe to be better mental health services,
You are preaching right now. I could not agree with you more.
Yeah.
I mean, everyone, homeless or otherwise, I think what is it? Like a third of, Americans have some kind of mental health disorder or some kind of struggle. Some folks are just a paycheck or two away from losing their house or losing their stability. and that's really tough. And when those things come together, that's,
Mhm.
a lot of folks have this notion of people that are homeless are X, Y, and Z. That is not the case. We have 28 people here and 28 unique different stories of how folks became unhoused, and
Absolutely.
now we're thankful and we celebrate how there are now 28 stories of how people are no longer unhoused and they call this place home,
Yeah.
which is really cool and encouraging. So, Sandy, you are. It's clear that you have bought into Goodness Village. If somebody asked you or expressed wanting to get involved, but was hesitant for this or that reason, or didn't know what their first step would be, what would you say?
I'd say come serve food with me
Hmm.
so you can see. I mean, there's nothing better than having a community dinner, having dinner with your community. I mean, um, my neighborhood has a potluck once a year. We all meet at the pool, at the
Hmm.
community pool, and everybody brings food, and you get to know your neighbors. Um, I I shepherd people here, and it takes sometimes it takes a long time because I most of the people I talk to, people, acquaintances, friends, work associates, they're like, "Oh, I don't have time for that. I would never be able to do that. Oh, how do you do it?" And I said, "Well, mm, we're all busy. Everyone has time. You just have to make the time, and you have to want to make the time for that." And I said, "But if you don't think you can make the time, I'll take your money." And I do, and I take their money, and then I make amazing food, and then I give them the opportunity to come serve with me. Some of my sponsors do, some of them don't, but the ones that do, can't wait to do it again. And
Hmm.
and I'm starting to shepherd that group into actually cooking now.
Hmm.
I can't wait till you guys get your community center.
Oh my gosh, you're
I am
telling
going to
me.
be the head cook. I already have my hat.
I love that. Yeah, we are hoping to have the community center, uh, beginning the build next year, with construction and permits. It's,
Mhm.
a lot of
I
wiggle
do know
room, but
that's my business.
yeah, 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 you know more than anybody else, but we're really hoping that by next year, around this time, we have something for our neighbors to gather and cook food together and just build
Mhm.
community.
Mhm. But, even without it, without the community center, we make it work.
Yeah.
We make it work, and we had, Thanksgiving in the farm building that Crosswinds Church, um, gave to us on Thanksgiving Day. We had tablecloths, we had music, I'm doing it again this year.
Are you?
Can't
Okay.
wait.
Awesome.
Cannot wait. Yeah.
That is fantastic, and if I hear you correctly, it is you are finding your passion of cooking and combining that with community, and it does not take a lot of effort on your end to make a huge difference for our neighbors here.
That is the biggest point. It does not. I'm fortunate that I work from home, so on Wednesdays, while I'm working, I'm boiling water, I'm peeling potatoes, and oh, I don't have to peel potatoes anymore. I have a potato peeling crew. Who can say that? I actually have friends who want to help, who, uh, not necessarily wanna get involved in the whole Goodness Village thing, but they wanna help me support Goodness Village, and, potatoes are cheap, and everybody loves mashed potatoes, so I do a lot of mashed potatoes, and I tell them, "Oh, time to come over and peel potatoes." I don't even have to peel potatoes anymore.
Helping out and making a difference at
So
Goodness Village could be as little as peeling some potatoes with Sandy.
that's right, and to your point, it doesn't take that much of an effort. You don't have to have that much money. You can take whatever your passion is and somehow turn that into support to the residents
Yeah.
here. Somehow, if you like to write resumes, if you have a talent for, whatever your talent is, if you love to fly drones, come over and teach people how to fly drones. I mean, activity is huge too. Just giving the residents something to look forward to and something exciting during the day.
Yeah, and we have different volunteer programs and
Mhm.
outlets here, but, uh if somebody has a great idea, let's connect with them with a neighbor, flying drones or some like no, sewing or knitting or
Yep.
jigsaw puzzles, what have you. We just launched what we called our volunteer visitors, which is basically exactly that. You want to come and hang out with some neighbors and share a passion or share a cup of coffee and a conversation. We have kind of like open office hours where volunteers can just come and hang out. And it seems so simple, but it is so impactful for our neighbors and our for community just to have someone around and hang out.
Right, knowing you're loved, knowing you're cared for, knowing, you know, people are concerned about you, knowing people want to help you. I mean, that's what I get from the residents here.
Mm,
I get that. I thought I was going to give that. I get that. I
that is
get it.
beautiful.
And that that was a big surprise for me. That was a big surprise. I had no idea the love that the residents here have to give.
Yeah. The overwhelming feeling that I get when I get to talk to neighbors is, I mean, I say community every other word here, but that's really a big part of it.
It's huge.
When folks are unhoused and living in the street or in their car, um, they're in survival mode. They don't have the time or the bandwidth to really build a healthy community. Here at the village, people have privacy, they have security in their own
Mhm,
homes, they have reliability from our staff and from volunteers, they have food security from wonderful folks like you and all the other food programs that we have. So we take those, human survival things and take care of them, so then our neighbors can connect with staff,
mhm,
volunteers, people throughout the community, and build those relationships and build that trust.
mhm.
And we've been doing this for 2 years, and we are just ecstatic to see where the village is now and where the village is going.
Yeah, the key totally is community or family. Imagine, I could imagine, my family, my children, my adult children both had amazing opportunities on the East Coast and they were gone. And what if your family's gone? And
Yeah.
what do you do? And even though I had, you know, my sisters and aunts and uncles and that sort of thing, um, my personal immediate family was gone, and I searched out how to replace not replace them, of not replacing you, Sean and Heather, but how to just move on, and find a new community, and I certainly have here. That is the key. I mean, even in, encampments in San Francisco, they have community there.
Yeah, people need people, like you
Yeah,
said, whether you're unhoused or not, you need community, you need relationships. Now, albeit if you're unhoused, unfortunately, a lot of those times it is unhealthy or unsafe, but people still need people.
right.
Here at Goodness Village, we like to think that, or we not like to think, here at Goodness Village, we take the people's safety and security number one priority and let
Mhm,
community and relationships build
from that.
from that. Absolutely.
Right, and once you do have a sense of safety and a sense of community, that can happen. When you're unhoused on the streets, you don't have that. You can never develop anything else. You're just in fearful every day of what's gonna happen.
Yeah.
I just think this is an amazing model. I just think this is the best way to start. This model has to be replicated, and I'm hoping that I love that, the cities are involved in Goodness Village. It's not a faith-based organization, although, lots of churches help. I love that the cities can see how it's working, and
Yeah.
maybe they can reproduce it over and over and over again.
We gotta start small and show
Yeah,
what the model is and how it works with 28 tiny houses, and
mhm,
we're fortunate to, partner with Crosswinds Church, and we have the community here on their property, and
right. That was key.
there's, like, 30 something acres of unused land,
Yeah,
so there is so much room to grow just here where we're at, let alone throughout the Tri-Valley in the East Bay, so,
yeah,
there's only way to go is up.
that's right. That's how I feel too. Mhm.
Well, Sandy, thank you so much for sitting down, hanging out, sharing a conversation with me, and being on the podcast.
Thank you for inviting me.
Yeah, this has been a treat for me, and I'm sure it's a treat for everybody listening. So we'll wrap this up the same way that we wrap up all of our staff meetings here, and what we've been doing for the podcast. And it's a little bit silly, but it totally works. We all do a big alligator clap. So stick your hands out. I'll count three, two, one, and we'll clap, and then we'll end this thing. You ready?
Yep.
3, 2, 1. Thanks for listening to the Goodness Village podcast. Production and recording done by our operations team here at the Village. Music was created by Club 88 member AJ Parr. If you want to know more about Club 88, this podcast, or Goodness Village, visit our website at gvlivermore.org. Don't forget, new episodes drop on Fridays. And thanks again for listening to The Good Pod.